Assalamualaikum. Today I will present a case involving a legal dispute between the Kerajaan Terengganu and Petronas. The issue revolves around the ownership and management of petroleum resource within Terengganu state boundaries. Let's dive into the details. So, this case is about a disagreement between the state government of Terengganu and Petronas. The main question is who has the legal right over the petroleum found in Terengganu? So, Petroleum claims that the Petroleum Development Act 1974 gives exclusive control over all petroleum in Malaysia. On the other hand, the Terengganu government believes it still owns the resource within its territory. The court's role is to decide how the law applies and whether the state's right was impacted by this act. So let's start with Petronas. Petronas is Malaysia's national oil and gas company. It was established under the Petroleum Development Act 1974. The Act gave Petronas the exclusive right to explore, extract, and manage petroleum resources throughout the country, whether the onshore or offshore. Petronas is managed by the federal government and is a key player in Malaysia's economy. Now, about the Kerajaan Negeri Terengganu. Terengganu is a Malaysian state with a rich coastline and significant petroleum resource. The state government believes it owns the petroleum within its territory, based on its constitutional right. This belief has led to the dispute with the federal government and Petronas over resource ownership and payments. So let's go to the next slide. So the next one is summary of the case. So, here's a summary of what happened. In 1975, Terengganu signed an agreement with Petronas, transferring its right to explore and extract petroleum. Petronas agreed to pay 5% of the petroleum value as royalties to the state. Payments were made from 1978 to 2000, but then disagreement arose, and payment also stopped. Terengganu sued Petronas and federal government, questioning the ownership of petroleum and the validity of the agreements. The High Court dismissed the claim, but the state government appealed. The next one, let's look at the argument from the both sides. From the argument of the plaintiff, that is Petronas, Petronas argued that the Petroleum Development Act 1974 gives its exclusive right to manage Malaysia's petroleum. It said that this law overrides any claim by individual states. The Act vesting ownership and control of petroleum resource in the federal government has granted Petronas as its agencies not to interfere with the use of the powers by the Petronas outside the intervention of the governments. Another hand, argument of the defendants. So, the Terengganu State Administration claim it still owned the petroleum resource sitting on its territory. It argued that the rights of the state over natural resource were not erased by the Petroleum Development Act 1974 and that it was required to give consent to any federal legislation impacting state rights. The state furthermore challenged the validity of the act, contending that the state rights protected by the federal constitution were infringed upon. So, Terengganu also questioned whether the law itself was valid.
Next, law applied in this case. First, Companies Act 1965, Evidence Act 1950, Petroleum Development Act 1974 Section 2, Rule of the Supreme Court Ordinance 14, Rule of the High Court 1980 Ordinance 14A, Rules 1 Clause 2, Ordinance 33 Rules 2, Supreme Court Practice 1999, Volume 1, Paragraph 14A/2/5. Next, court decision. The Federal Court in Petroleum Nasional Berhad against Kerajaan Negeri Terengganu 2003 decided that the federal government has the right over petroleum in the continental shelf, not Terengganu. Under the Petroleum Development Act 1974, Petronas owns and controls the petroleum resources. The federal government was allowed to stop paying royalties directly to Terengganu and instead give wang assign or goodwill payment through federal agency. Since Terengganu didn't have a right over the petroleum, they couldn't claim royalties from Petronas. The court decision confirmed that federal laws and Petronas' right over petroleum are superior. Lastly, the conclusion. Future court cases related to federal and state right over natural resources should use a cooperative and fair approach, carefully balancing the interests of both the federal and state government. Collaboration between federal and state agencies, business leaders, and local communities will ensure equity and long-term sustainability in decision making. Dispute can be resolved more effectively by promoting transparency and involving all relevant stakeholders in the process.